I started media training people that were not particularly excellent on camera and certainly didn't have the confidence. And I started doing that back in 2013. And so fast forward, I continued to do that. But now I've also embraced my own evolution
Yeah.
into live selling, of course, working in the TV home shopping space and helping brands and people navigate not only the on camera, but the on camera sales with my live selling school. So I always say when people go, what is it that you do again? Because it's always hard for people that aren't in my space to understand what exactly Dawn does. So I always say, if you are looking to sell yourself, your products, your ideas, your business, whatever it is on camera, that's what I can help with.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am again your host, Mike Hoffman, and today I'm joined by award-winning TV host and media trainer, Dawn Chubai. Dawn, how are you?
Hey, I'm awesome. Thank you for having me today.
No, I appreciate you coming on. It's it's interesting stuff. Part of the stuff we're going to talk about is obviously your experience as an on-air host and salesperson at the TSC, which I know is Canada's, I believe, only online shopping network. And when I was reading about you, I kept thinking back to, my childhood and all the times I'd be sitting like in the downstairs with my mom and she's flipping the channels. Next thing you know, I'm on QVC or HSN. And I'm like, oh my God, please put on anything but this. But I do have fond memories of that. And when I go visit my mom now, those networks are still on to this day, 30 years later.
Yeah, the Thigh Master, the Squatty Potty, Tony
Yeah.
Little still kicking it,
Yeah.
for sure. And yeah, so that's where I worked in Canada, pretty much identical, other than a different country, of course. But I would say even TV home shopping has evolved to include more modern technologies. And there are some of the top stars in the world. Elton John
Yeah.
was live selling and selling candles, if you can
Yeah.
imagine.
It's bizarre, already we're off topic, which is great. It's bizarre to me that so many celebrities who clearly don't need the money and clearly, get behind a product for whatever reason. And not only do they put their name to it, which is one thing, but they're out there literally like selling.
Yeah, it speaks to the power, Mike, I guess, of a video, right? I mean, which I do think is applicable amongst all industries. So it does
Yeah.
speak to that power and that reach.
Yeah, let's take a step back because obviously I always like to talk to people. When I talk to writers or I talk to comedians, I grew up, I wanted to be a writer. I have a feeling you did not grow up saying, "Hey, I want to be on a home shopping network." So clearly, your path kind of moved around, and so forth. So, what was the goal when you were younger?
Well, ultimately, I thought I would be a teacher.
Okay.
Which I guess in some respects I kind of am.
Yeah,
It was
sure.
just a little bit of a different path, but it was my music because I was also a musician, a jazz singer, and theater
Okay.
performer in my hometown of Edmonton, Alberta. And it was
Mhm.
that actually that catapulted me into traditional broadcast, where I hosted breakfast television for several years, and then ultimately TV home shopping. So I think it's fair to say that for the most part, I've managed to sort of fall into many of my
Yeah.
jobs, but always excelling at whatever I did just by the very nature of trying really hard and trying new things. But I guess if I look back now, Mike, yeah, I'm a teacher. I am
Yeah.
ultimately a teacher.
So you grew up in Edmonton, so hockey's big there. So obviously, I'm assuming an Oiler fan.
Yes, although I will say that when you work in television, you always have to adopt the home team. So when I
I
lived
know what
in
you're going to tell me. That
right?
was my question.
Yeah, then you have to be when I moved to British Columbia, where I
Yeah,
am right now living in Vancouver, of
yeah,
course, the BC Lions fan. And then when I moved to Ontario, I was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Now I'm back in BC. But one of the fun things I got to do as well to sort of, I'm going to say, cement my loyalty to the towns and cities that I was in is I would sing the anthems as well at the
no,
hockey games and the football games. So I was always able to be front facing as a fan, but there still is a real warm spot in my heart for the Edmonton Oilers. And man, hey, they're doing all right.
they're doing all right now. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be in BC in August, so you're going to have to give us a tour of my family. So
Oh my gosh, absolutely. We'll definitely make it a date.
yeah, we're doing the Alaska cruise, and we get like 6 hours or 7 hours in BC.
Are you going to Juneau?
We are.
Okay, so there's a great spot called, and I think it's called Champagne and Oysters.
Okay.
And Juneau's not very big. And when you get off the cruise ship, because I also did that very same cruise, I mean, I basically live right where the cruise port is, so I'm very near there. We
Oh,
get up
yeah. So
into
I got 6 hours. You're taking us out. Okay, good.
yeah, absolutely. So what I was going to say is that when you get off the cruise ship, it's very easy to find. It almost looks like you're in a, I'm going to say like a food truck
Mhm.
area,
Yeah,
and it's called Champagne and Oysters. It's awesome, so definitely worth a stop. And then there's other, there's a fire pit there and some other restaurants or almost like
yeah.
truck style things for the kids or your family, obviously.
I don't know how young you think I look. My kids aren't really kids at this point, but I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, my kids are going, but my kids are, like you mentioned, teacher. One's a teacher, and one's in college. So
Well, you look young. It must be all that skincare you bought when you were watching QVC.
that's right, exactly. Yes, and clearly, whatever I bought to help me keep my hair, that product I want to return because that totally did not work. Yeah, but it's funny. So I was also thinking back some of the products that you mentioned before. That I know I've gotten from QPC. I can't tell you how much Tupperware I've gotten from my mom because they had the great deal on the 64 pack. Yeah, so that's a lot of Tupperware that we don't need. But I also have the things in my car that are now blocking stuff from falling through the seats.
Some of the best products
Yeah,
solve a problem, and that is one of those products that I always thought, man, why didn't I
that's
invent
right.
something like
Yeah,
that?
it's amazing. It's amazing. So it's evolved into obviously you're still doing the on air stuff, but you're doing training now as well for other people in the industry. So talk about that evolution and what that entails.
Sure. And I will say that as long as I've ever been an employee, in the broadcast industry, but even back when I was, even waitressing and working as a bus person and all of that, I was always sort of forward thinking as a, I'm going to say as an entrepreneur. So
Yeah,
even working in traditional broadcast, I started media training people that were not particularly excellent on camera and certainly didn't have the confidence. And I started doing that back in 2013. And so fast forward, I continued to do that. But now I've also embraced my own evolution
yeah.
into live selling, of course, working in the TV home shopping space and helping brands and people navigate not only the on camera, but the on camera sales with my live selling school. So I always say when people go, "What is it that you do again?" Because it's always
Yeah.
hard for people that aren't in my space to understand what exactly Dawn does. I mean, they understood when I hosted a TV show or when I did the weather or when I did the traffic, but this they
Yeah.
can't wrap their head around if they're not in that mindset. So I always say if you are looking to sell yourself, your products, your ideas, your business, whatever it is on camera, that's what I can help with.
So if you had to give a 30-second spiel to someone, you literally had 30 seconds to what would be the one thing you'd say right off the bat if you want to improve wherever level you are at that to get to that next level? What's the one thing that we all need to understand?
Well, you need to understand, first of all, the power of video and even a step further, the power of live, especially in this technological space where everything is so faceless and we
Mhm.
rely so much on AI. It is your opportunity to amplify who you are as a person and thereby who you are as a brand. So if you're not comfortable on camera, pull out your phone right now and
Yeah.
just start talking to yourself and press record. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get.
Right, right, right. And social media, evolving over time, and especially now being so prevalent. I mean, you can't go on whether it's TikTok or Instagram and just go through your basic feed without someone trying to sell you something, someone endorsing someone. Younger kids doing their clothes hauls or this one, and so forth. So it's become so prevalent nowadays.
Yeah, I would say certainly, yes. And there's many different ways that that can look. And some of
Mhm.
it is more of what we call a harder sell, and some of it is more influential. And we see
Yeah,
a lot of creators taking advantage of that. But also, something quite as obvious is even something like TikTok Shop. But I do like to say as well that at the end of the day, and I always believed this, even when I hosted breakfast television, which was not a sales job per se, but when you think about every reason someone would want to go on television, it's
yeah,
usually to convey an idea. And when you
yeah,
convey an idea, of some sort or promote an event, you're still selling something. And so
yeah,
I always like to say we're all selling something. And the younger generation, they're a lot more comfortable on camera, of
yeah.
course. And I think it's up to, millennials and up, Gen Xers, right? Where all of us need to get comfortable in that space.
Mhm.
There's nothing that promotes trust and cultivates trust more than putting yourself on camera because then people know there is a person and a personality hopefully that you can really convey over
Right.
that screen that helps people feel connected to you in some way. And it is those connections and conversations that in the sales world converts.
And I think what's happening now, I think you're spot on with that, is now you're seeing these influencers. And I don't want to call them celebrities because I think there's definitely a distinction there. But I think with a lot of these influencers, they're not just, a lot of their videos aren't necessarily about product, it's about them. And I think it's just to build that comfort and that familiarity with them. So now when they do say, hey, this is something check this out or go to my Amazon link or something, it's not just someone saying that, it's someone who you almost feel like you're friends with because you've seen their get ready with me's and you've gone with them with their kid to the park, or you've gone on their road trip to the and so forth. So they really become like your extended family or like your long lost friend.
Yeah, we call that authenticity,
Yeah.
right? And it's why TV home shopping hosts have done so incredibly well in TV home shopping networks over time. But of course, even they are having to adjust. And I wanted to sort of clarify as well, too. The word influencer has now become a bit of a dirty word, right?
Yeah.
Because what is actual influence? It's the ability to sway a decision, to persuade, if we think
Mhm.
about it. And I
Yep.
think there was such a saturation, especially over over COVID, most certainly,
Yeah.
where everyone was calling themselves an influencer. And I think it's important to note as well that celebrities are often put in those places, but even they are not necessarily influential. They
Mhm.
can be aspirational,
Yeah.
but so much of the time they are paid to do that. And a
Sure.
lot of the people, the creators, let's call them, that really started doing the things like the get readies with me and the makeup tutorials and naturally shared the products they want, they did that because they felt aligned with those products. And those are
Mhm.
the best live sellers. Now, does
Yeah.
it mean that somebody who doesn't get paid can't also be that? No, absolutely. I mean, I've built a career on that to the tune of $30 million plus in product sales and TV home shopping. And it's what I help
Mhm.
others do right now
Yeah.
to, again, have those, conversations that convert. But I say it's also very important for you to have some sort of connection, if you can, to the product or service that you are representing as an ambassador. And so it's why I always say you should have tried a product. And not
Mhm.
everything has to be for you, but you have to be able to have tried it so that you
Right.
know who the product is for, so
Right.
that you can be that advocate as well for the person that is watching.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be a logical fit, and there has to be, the authenticity and so forth. That you got to watch something and believe, okay, this family is using this product, or this really has been a lifesaver to me with my relationship with my kids, or oh my god, I was able to organize my life. I'm so unorganized because of this. Because obviously, goes back to your original point about practicing and getting in front of a camera. It's so easy to, just as it's easy to establish your credibility, like I said, I think it's just as easy to lose your credibility if you suddenly are going really out of your lane and trying to promote something that you got no business promoting. I think people are smart enough to see it.
Yeah, there's the lane, but then in my business, I mean, my lane was everything because I
Yeah.
sold everything, every electronics and
Right.
housewares and clothing and shoes and all of that. But I think where you start to lose the credibility is when you use terms like this is my favorite
Yeah.
X, unless it literally is your favorite, because
Mhm.
what you do when you say that, you are limiting potentially your opportunities
To
for
say the
brand
least.
partnerships,
Yep.
but you also are losing the credibility because not everything can possibly be your favorite.
Sure.
And so, when one of the things that I would do when I was selling in TV home shopping, and still to this day as well, is I love this product and here's why.
Hmm.
And that way, there is something that I will say that will hopefully resonate and connect with someone
Yeah.
out there who believes the same things I believe or
Right.
wants what I just said. If I do truly want to convey that something is my favorite, it's really got to be that
It
good.
better be that good.
Right. Or it could be this used to be my favorite, but I started to sway to this one because of X, but I still
Yeah.
use this on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. And then and the biggest thing I would say, Mike, is that whenever you're, and it's always sell sometimes again also sounds like a dirty word, but when you are trying to sell something,
Mhm.
right, to convey what the benefits and features are
Yeah.
to something, is to always be able to answer the why. So for me, when I train my students at Live Selling School and when I coach brands one on one, if you're going to say something, you best be able to quantify it and qualify it with a statement almost immediately as to why, because that's what the person on the other side of the screen is asking and probably even yelling at the screen. The only
Yeah.
difference is you can't hear them. So you have to anticipate that question.
So having, like I said, having watched my share of home shopping. You're, as you said, you have many lanes because you're selling so many different things. I gotta believe it's a challenge because I'm sure some of the things you're selling, and I'm not going to ask you for anything in specific. So I gotta believe you're thinking, I wouldn't buy this in a million years. I think this is the dumbest product ever. Who would spend their money on this? So now, what's your approach there, as opposed to, oh, this truly is one of my favorites, to, oh my God, this is a piece of, crap.
Well, first of all, I am the beholder, right?
No, of course.
It's not for me to judge why someone might want something. Sometimes it's budgetary.
Sure.
I might like the most expensive purse in the world, but I also recognize myself and many people out there can't afford it. So for me to
Sure.
say this is my favorite would also not include so many people.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, because absolutely there are times where I'd go, gosh, I would never buy this, or
Right.
I don't really, it's not the best quality. But I also know there's someone out there that wants that
Right.
fast fashion, that trendy piece, or
Yeah.
that cheap and cheerful. And I would literally say, listen, there are many products that fall into this category.
Mhm.
And to do what you need to do, you could spend 20 times as much. Speaking
Yeah.
to, of course, maybe some of the top tier brands. Let's use electronics as an
Sure.
example. For instance, that fruit brand, we all know it. There would be versions that you could buy that could do similar things, perhaps even like headphones. And you go, but
Yeah.
listen, for the dollar, you can't beat this. And this product here is a fraction of the cost. The sound is way better than others I've seen out there,
Right.
certainly at this price point.
Yeah.
And gosh, they still offer you a year warranty. So you absolutely have nothing to lose, and you'll be the hero. The kids that you're putting this in the stocking for, they're not even old enough to know the brand name. So grab
Right.
them this and you're the hero.
Yeah. So yeah. So you accentuate the parts that you don't have a problem with per se.
Exactly.
Do you ever worry about linking yourself to a product for whatever reason, whether it was, and I can't even think of a product, environmentally not safe, or you feel there's a hazard for whatever reason? Have you ever had that dilemma you've had to kind of deal with?
Well, lucky for me, when I worked with TV Home Shopping, they do such vetting. Like the
Okay.
process, it's like Shark Tank. It's not simple to get in TV Home
Yeah.
Shopping, and the live selling space, like as far as an independent creator, and of course I'm a coach, but I'm also a host.
Sure.
It hasn't really come to that point, but I can relay a story, and actually a couple of incidents where even TV Home Shopping had to separate themselves from a brand that they were previously aligned
Yeah.
with. And so, and not even necessarily in all cases because they as a company don't agree with, but you
Mhm.
have to also look at who your audience is, and sometimes it's just nice not to have any controversy.
Yeah.
So and I'm not going to get into the whys, but I'll just say a few names. The My Pillow guy, right? In TV, however you sway in politics, in TV Home Shopping, we just could not risk the controversy that was happening sort of in the beginning of his alignment, politically, with
Sure.
what
Sure.
was going on. So again, we don't have to like it or not like it, but that was severed for us. So as a
Yeah.
host, I didn't have to deal with it. The other was Peter Nygard, and
Mhm.
aligned with the kind of the Epsteins of the world. And so
Yeah.
again, they severed it. And by the way, these were expensive things to separate yourself from, because we had at TSC a ton of
Yeah.
stock, and
Right.
that all basically had to be garbage. So
Right.
it's not like it wasn't an investment that they could have kept making money on, because not everyone cares about things in the news like that. Some people just want their fashion, and that's
Agreed.
fine, and their pillows. But we were very lucky, I would say, because we were protected as hosts from anything that would be
Yeah.
deemed super controversial that could impact our own personal reputation.
Yeah, because listen, I mean, you see it a lot here in the U.S. With cars, or someone will say they'll only buy American, and where it's not about the quality of the car, it's not about anything. It has to do with loyalty to country, or people buy whatever. Again, not even automotives. There's brand loyalty. There's so many different factors that go into it, and I think it's kind of what makes what you do somewhat difficult is you're appealing to an audience that a you don't know. I mean, you might get reports on demographics on who watches your shows from the reports, but at that particular time, you're trying to sell something and you have no idea who's watching on the other side.
Well, I'll say also, as much as we may be selling many, many brands, and by the way, amongst those many brands, they're all competing with each other. I mean, I've sold
Yeah,
everything from Sony to Samsung to LG, all
yeah,
within a period of a week, right? So
right,
these
right.
are all competitors with each other. But this is where, when you look at your on camera representative, and so even if we took it outside of TV home shopping, even if we took it outside of live selling,
Hmm.
we're talking about virtual clienteling. We can talk
Yeah,
about one-on-one Zoom meetings with
yep,
clients and any of that. You're also selling yourself as your own personal brand. So
yes,
to a lot of the extent, it's, do I like Dawn? Do I
yeah,
trust Dawn? Do I trust Mike? And so now I'm going to spend my time with Dawn and or Mike,
yep,
and whatever they sell me or want or present to me, let's forget about sell, whatever they are presenting to me, you still as the viewer have the choice. But what you are doing when you tune in to Dawn or to Mike is you're saying, hey, listen, I value their perspective
yep, yep.
and I don't have to agree with them and I don't have to buy what they're selling, but I value their perspective and I trust them. And why? Is because you've nurtured that trust and you've
Yeah,
cultivated that
yeah.
loyalty with yourself as a person and the
Mhm.
brand you are.
Yeah, I will. I will say that, to be fair to that point and to agree with it. I know. I keep using my mom as an example. I know, and I can't give you the names. I know there are certain hours or certain hosts that she will definitely watch because she enjoys them. Whether it's because of their perspective on the product or whether she just finds them more entertaining. Because let's face it, it all comes down to its entertainment. If you're not entertaining the people, they're not going to watch. You know, I don't think a lot of people are watching just for the intent of buying. I think they're watching for the interaction and the and so forth.
Community, the
Yeah.
interaction, the community, the entertainment. And I think that is why when I started live selling school, gosh, 2 years ago now,
Yeah.
is I knew that, especially again in this world that is becoming so heavily digital, and in fact,
Yeah.
digital natives now, people that are born into the digital world that will never have a cable package, will never have a CD player or
Yeah.
any of
Right.
that. And to also be able to still reap the benefits of that face to face contact with a trusted advocate, which is why I
Mhm.
think we're seeing that incredible popularity with TikTok Shop for as long as that's going to last.
Yeah.
And of course, all the other different ways that you can leverage your own intellectual property through live selling, live social shopping. We're hearing Gary Vaynerchuk talk about that a ton, and that's been
Yeah.
a huge boost for my business in particular. But I think that even that younger generation is starting to recognize the value of that on-camera advocacy and the community and entertainment it brings. Are we ever going to see appointment television around it? Maybe. I mean, if you want to see that live aspect where Dawn accidentally spills the water from
Yeah.
the cleanser she was using or whatever, or if it's going to be in the form of shoppable video, I think that we are going to see a comeback to something that goes beyond a typical static product page, which, by the way, as you know, Mike, too, can also be very overwhelming for people because
Oh, yeah.
there is a lot out there. And sometimes you need someone to break it down and just tell you
Well,
what's what in layman's terms.
and also what's legit. I mean, nowadays, these things are pretty scary because, and I was literally talking about this about another topic literally 20 minutes ago. If I just go on my internet here and I type in something, my Facebook feed's going to have something very similar to it the next time I go on, and so is my Instagram. And now I'm going to be inundated, and I'm going to be inundated with one buy that says this, someone else who says this. So back to you establishing the credibility is super important because I don't know what's legit, I don't know what's spam, and it's just like emails you get for whatever company or you get an email now from a company. The first thing I have to do is I got to look at the address to make sure it's not, if it's from Verizon, it really says Verizon. It's not from JCWV, someone just trying to get you. So I think now with AI and with technology and all the bad guys out there, I think you putting your face to selling something, I think is super even more important now than it was because while you're not necessarily endorsing the product, you're at least giving your face to the legitimacy of the product.
Yeah, showing you there's also a face behind the brand.
Yeah.
So not only when I do it, but this is why I also work with founders
Yeah.
to help them get comfortable on camera first, right? And
Hmm.
that's whether they get interviewed for a blog or
Yeah.
media interview or whatever back in the day when you were trying to get on to regular television.
Yeah.
But for them to also put a face behind the brand so that someone can hear their origin story. And it's so funny talking about AI. Just literally moments ago, I just went into one of those um, AI dashboards and I
Hmm.
translated a video that I did on 5 key strategies for live selling, and I translated it and dubbed my voice in French. And after this, I'm going to go do it in Chinese. And after that, and it
Wow.
took 30 seconds, and it's my face. I could have done my voice, but there was a voice that was close enough. And I don't, when you're doing dubbing, I don't think people care as much. You just want to find something because they don't,
Agreed.
someone who's in from Germany doesn't know who Dawn is. But as somebody who is a leader in this space, I thought, well, gosh, I can use AI to do that while still maintaining my authenticity. And I
Yeah.
just thought, wow, the world has just opened up so much for us. So it's a blessing and a curse. So
Yeah.
for those of you that are getting, the feed of everything to do with the topic you just searched on
Mhm.
any given platform,
Yeah.
to what you're saying, Mike, it can be kind of a bit of a pain sometimes and a bit
Mhm.
confusing, but I think we don't need to be scared of AI. I just think you have to just always be looking for that trusted face if you can. And yeah, keep checking those emails and making sure it doesn't say XY295.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know why they haven't figured that out too, by the way. Like most of us are pretty sophisticated to look for that, but it's still a big problem. My gosh.
And we have our IT guy here every few months. He specifically sends out a bogus email to the firm, despite all the training we've done, and to see who clicks on the virus. And obviously, his doesn't have a virus, but it's amazing. No matter how much we train, you're busy. You see something. Oh, Verizon. Oh, let me. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I didn't pay my Verizon bill. Let me click on it. Next thing you know, you have a virus or something.
Yeah, our company did the same thing. We would have to do that every year. They were doing like the phishing. You had to
Yeah.
do the training, so you had to
Yep.
watch the whole thing, and you
Yeah.
have, mark complete because I worked for Rogers, which is basically like Verizon in Canada, right?
Sure. Roger Center. Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Big company.
But it's a big, media company and also wireless and all that. So yeah, we would have to do that. And I always felt like, yes, I didn't click on it, but I think one time I did, and you just felt like, oh my gosh, I know
Yeah.
better. But imagine people that are not as savvy. And I always feel for people that have come to the country, sort of first generation immigrants, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're clicking on things, and their lives can be devastated, buying those gift cards thinking they're doing something right, or
Yeah.
seniors that are out there. So I always,
Yeah.
every time I see a scam like that on the news, I always call my in-laws who are, in their 80s now, and my
Hmm.
dad who's in his late 70s, and always going, don't click on those things.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Yeah. Whenever I see my mom or my in-laws, like I went over, we saw both last night, and both of them look at this mail, look at the phone, and I got to my in-laws. All right, check this email out. What's this? Check this email out. And which is good. They're trained to do that. But I don't even get a hello. It's like as I'm walking in, they're coming over with their phone and their pile of mail. Saying, "Hey, check this. Check this. Is this real?" And so forth. And most of it's not. That's the sad thing, especially in emails. Most of it is not real.
Yeah, I think especially with AI, even if we take it back to that, I think there's going to have to be more
Mhm.
safeguards. I mean, we already have things like, the Norton
Yeah.
antivirus things or whatever, but there's going to have to be something that does additional filtering. It seems like a lot is getting through that shouldn't,
Yeah.
including AI generated videos and
Mhm.
images. And by generated, I mean not like Dawn dubbing her existing video in a different language. I'm talking about those deep fakes, and they are getting so good.
Well, they can make a video easily with you. They can make it your voice, and they can make you saying what I'll call a public person being on TV, and they can have you saying something incredibly offensive to a race, a religion, or whatever, and it could be very believable that it's you.
Yeah, and the trouble with the internet is, at least at this stage, I don't think the internet can decipher what is fake and what is real.
Correct.
And as we know, it's also very hard to get rid of things that are on the internet.
Once
So
it's
it's
on there, it's
a
there.
very difficult state. I mean, we're on the middle of it, this space, and people that
Yeah.
are born into this world, they will be able to navigate it, and there will be a lot of safeguards put in place. But
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, I wouldn't want to be like my dad's age, for instance, or
Oh no.
my grandparents' age, and having to navigate this. You can see why they choose to not really adopt as much technology, probably because of the learning curve. But I would say
Yeah.
also it can be a little bit scary to navigate all the dangers out there. And
Mhm.
and for them, these can be legit dangers.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, I have clients who get fake letters, back from the IRS, and saying they owe money, mail it here, or you mentioned the gift cards, go, we're gonna police are gonna come to your house in an hour if you don't get these gift cards, and yeah, and luckily a lot of them have called me, and we're able to stop it.
yeah.
But some of them, unfortunately, call you after the fact. Is this okay to do this? I'm like, oh, why didn't you call me 20 minutes ago? you
Yeah,
know, you just
exactly.
made it so tough for yourself, and it's heartbreaking because these people, who are, they're so afraid to get in trouble that they don't want to wait the 5 minutes and put a call in and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think, though, again, back to sort of video selling and remote selling and all of that, I
Yeah,
do think that that's, again, one of the reasons why TV home shopping, in addition, of course, to the scale and how many you can reach on linear broadcast, but even more
yeah,
so now, certainly in the future, as we go, again, a $1 trillion industry, when you look at live social selling, I do think it's that face behind the brand. It is that trusted advocacy. And so, for instance, yes, you can do things like TikTok Shop and Amazon Live if you're looking to navigate for yourself, if you are a brand or a creator
yeah.
slash influencer. And by the way, this could be amongst all services and industries, especially with
Yeah,
one-to-one clienteling. But I would say as well, even additional trust built in when you are able to host those shows and
yeah.
drive to your actual website, because driving to your personal website or
Mhm.
your business website or dawnchubay.com or live selling school, when someone is there, and especially if their product line is integrated with Shopify, and a lot of what I work with brands are is helping them navigate which platform they will use
Yeah.
to host their live shopping event, which does integrate with whatever e-commerce, WooCommerce, Shopify,
Mhm.
whatever it is, sometimes even URLs, to know for people that they're going to watch the show on that .com, and when they press the button that they see when they're inspired to buy, Dawn's live selling school pen, for instance,
Yeah.
they're still watching, but that checkout page
Yeah.
slides right up. And so there is also that built-in trust, as opposed to going to some random Facebook marketplace ad where you're going to click on something and who knows what you're going to end up
Right.
clicking into.
And that's a scary thing. So, how many days are you on approximately every week?
So it depends. I mean, so what I'm doing now is I'm working pretty much mostly as an entrepreneur. I still
Okay.
do host events for people when they need me to. And
Mhm.
I don't sell my service as you must use me. My goal is to empower brands and
Sure.
people to do this on their own using tools and personnel that they already have.
Yeah.
I still do some appearances on the shopping channel, but not as an employee, because I went off on my own. So it's more
Mhm.
as a vendor guest,
Gotcha.
and right now selling jewelry, but I can certainly work with any brand.
Yeah.
And even though, TSC, we have a lot of TV home shopping hosts that also sell in other markets like
Yes.
HSN, QVC,
Mhm.
TVSN, even in Germany, where they're wearing a headset like this and they're hearing
Yeah.
translation from the host in their headpiece, because a good salesperson is a great salesperson.
Yes.
And sometimes you are limited by the language someone speaks or
Mhm.
their geography.
Yeah.
But that isn't the main part of my business now. So I would say, last week I was on camera with two different brands virtually, again, live selling.
Mhm.
And that was last week. Tomorrow I'm on with another brand, a skincare brand. So it's not a regular gig that
Yeah.
way, but I'm constantly,
So you're
that
constantly
we all
on it
do.
through a different format.
I'm always either in a different format, or I am working toward amplifying my services, my online course, and doing even
Yeah.
podcasts like this, which, is great for exposure. And so I'm super happy that, you've offered your platform to
Yeah.
let me share my story a bit.
No, it's kind of cool. So since you mentioned your business and so forth like that, and social media is key, kind of talk about the different platforms and how you could be found.
Yeah, so I'm on nearly every social media platform. I'm at Dawn Chubay.
Mhm.
If you're following me though on YouTube, it's at Dawn Chubay Media.
Mhm.
And my website, I would say the all inclusive website, just given probably the diversity of your audience, you
Yeah.
can find anything you would want to know about the services I offer at dawnchubay.com. From there, you'll find out about live selling. From there, you'll find about media training, camera confidence building, public speaking coaching. So that, I would say, that's the most diverse website for people to find me, dawnchubay.com.
And since it's not the easiest spelling, that's DAWNCHUBAI.
That is correct. If you go Dawn live selling in Google, I will come up right away. So
Yeah,
if
I
you
found you
forget
on
that, you'll
TikTok.
find
I
me.
found you on TikTok in about 1 second when I was studying up on you a little bit before the podcast. So you came right up. You are the only Dawn Chubay, so it's perfect.
Love it.
Yeah. But listen, I appreciate you coming on. It was really interesting to hear about this stuff, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I can't wait to share the episode. So thank you for your
Yeah.
time, and thanks to everybody who took the time to watch and listen.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.